Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Arshila Andista Mantika. I'm from 3SA88. So I would like to present about validity in English assessment. Well, whether a test is valid or not is indicated by the high validity of the measured test results. Invalid measuring instruments will provide false information about the condition of the subject or individual being tested. If this misinformation is consciously or unconsciously used as basis for consideration in making a decision in a test, then that decision is certainly not the right thing. So in this video, I will present about what validity is, type of validity, and how to make tests more valid. First, what is validity? According to Arthur Hughes, validity of a test is the extent to which it exactly measures what it is supposed to measure. What use is the reader to make of the notion of validity? Well, validity is important because it can help to determine what types of tests to use to make sure the reader is using methods that are ethical and cost-effective, to make sure the reader is using methods that truly measures the idea or construct in tests. There are four types of validity. First, content validity. Second, criterion-related validity. Next, construct validity and phase validity. Let's see the first one. Content validity. Content validity is the validity calculated by testing the content of the measuring instrument with regional analysis. The representative samples tested are language, skills, structures, and etc. The test is content valid if it includes a proper sample of the relevant structures. Just what are the relevant structures will depend, of course, upon the purpose of the test. In order to judge whether or not a test has content validity within a specification of the skills or structures, a specification should be made at a very early stage in test construction. It isn't to be expected that everything in the specification will always appear in the test. There may simply be too many things for all of them to appear in a single test, but it will provide the test constructor with a basis for making a principal selection of elements for inclusion in the test. Content validity is used to measure learning ability, learning achievement, and learning outcomes. What is the importance of content validity? First, the greater a test content validity, the more likely it is to be an accurate measure of what it is supposed to measure. Second, a test without content validity is likely to have a harmful backwash effect since areas that are not tested are likely to become ignored in teaching and learning. But too often, the content of tests is determined by what is easy to test rather than what is important to test. Next, criterion-related validity. Another approach to test validity is to see how far results on the test agree with those provided by some independent and highly dependable assessment of the candidate's ability or an independent criterion. There are essentially two kinds of criterion-related validity. First is concurrent validity and predictive validity. Concurrent validity is established when the test and the criterion administered at about the same time. Example of concurrent validity, where a situation where course objectives call for an oral component as part of the final achievement test. The objective may list a large number of functions which students are expected to perform orally, to test all of which might take 45 minutes for each student. This could well be impractical. To do this, we should choose at random a sample of all the students taking the test. The students would then be subjected to the full 45 minutes oral components necessary for coverage of all the functions, using perhaps 4 scholars to ensure reliable scoring. The student scores on the full test would be compared with the ones they obtained on the 10-minute session. If the comparison between the two sets of scores reveals a higher level of agreement, then the shorter version of the oral component may be considered valid. If, on the other hand, the two sets of scores show little agreement, the shorter version cannot be considered valid. It cannot be used as a dependable measure of achievement with respect to the function specified in the objective. Predictive validity. Predictive validity concerns the degree to which a test can predict candidates' future performance. The example, where an attempt was made to validate a placement test. Placement tests attempt to predict the most appropriate class for any particular student. Validation would involve an inquiry. Once courses were underway into the proportion of students who were thought to be misplaced, it would then be a matter of comparing the number of misplacements and their effects on teaching and learning, with the cost of developing and administering a test that would place students more accurately. References to a higher level of agreement and little agreement raise the question of how the level of agreement is measured. While there are in fact standard procedures for comparing sets of scores in this way, which generate what it is called validity coefficient. Validity coefficient is a mathematical measure of similarity to show the degree of validity. Perfect validity will result in a coefficient of 1. Total lack of validity results in a coefficient of 0. Satisfactory validity depends on the test purpose and importance. A coefficient of 1.70 might be considered low if the test is important. And the next one is construct validity. Construct validity is a type of validity that shows the extent to which the test reveals a trait or ability to be measured. The word construct refers to an attribute, an ability, or skills that happen in the human brain and is defined by established theories. Constructs exist in the human brain and are not directly observable. An example of measurement of the human brain or constructs such as intelligence, level of emotions, proficiency, and ability. These concepts are abstract and theoretical but have been observed in practice. Construct validity can be used to measure attitudes, interest in self-concept, focus, and control, for example, to measure aptitude tests and intellectual intelligence tests. And the last one is face validity. A test is said to have face validity if it looks as if it measures what it is supposed to measure. If the contents of the measuring instrument are seen in accordance with what you want to measure, it can be said that the face validity has been fulfilled. A test which doesn't have face validity may not be accepted by candidates, teachers, education authorities, or employers. It may simply not be used, and if it is used, the candidate's reaction to it may mean that they do not perform on it in a way that truly affects their ability. Examples of face validity. First, if you want to test the students in pronunciation but you do not ask them to speak, then your test lacks of face validity. And next, if your test contains items or materials which are not acceptable to candidates, teachers, educators, etc., then your test lacks of face validity. How to make tests more valid? First, write explicit specification for the test, which includes all the constructs to be measured. Second, make sure that you include a representative sample of the concepts. Next, use direct testings, make sure the test scoring is valid, and make the test reliable. Alright, I think that's the end of my presentation. Thank you for attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.